Hi, I'm Cathy. I'm an alcoholic and an addict.
Hey, Cathy.
And I've been through the process with the help of a couple of big book steps study sponsors, meetings like this, a God of my understanding, and I'm working on step 9, very lazily, but I'm doing it. And I try to work the latter steps to the best of my ability. And when Alicia texted me and asked, I want to say no immediately, because I think I'd rather a root canal than sit up here. I just don't like it. And I'm not crying, but you'll see me wipe my eyes. So I'm not crying over you guys. I just got something wrong with me. So, well, I got a lot of things wrong with me, but step 2. When I first came into the program, well, I'll say this first. By the grace of God, I have 20 years of sobriety, and I didn't get to this process until I was 18 years sober. And, regular AA, I hate when people ditch it, but did do for me what it needed to do, and I believe that I got here when I was supposed to get here, and not any time sooner, because I probably wouldn't have been able to do it. I admire people who are like brand new sober, like I know Dave did that. I would have been so out of here. I remember I went to one of these meetings when I was 3 years sober, and I thought you people were all like the AA cult and the Nazis, and I swore I was never coming back, and I didn't come back, obviously, for a long time. And but when I first saw this, and it talked about, insanity, I knew I was insane for a long time. And I guess, I thought I was crazy, and when I came to AA, I realized I wasn't crazy. I was an alcoholic, and that was such a big relief for me. And I'm obviously nervous. Alcohol did for me what it was supposed to do. When they were talking, I think it was on page 21. I remember the first time I read this, I was like, oh my God, somebody followed me around and wrote a book about me, and. Because at one point or another, I was probably all of these people. I started drinking and, doing drugs by the time I was 16, I was smoking pot on a daily basis and drinking whenever I could. And I thought that was normal because everybody in my life and in my neighborhood and in my family did the same thing. And I thought that people that didn't drink were not normal. And little did I know that I didn't know what I didn't know. And then it came to that point where it said, why doesn't she stop drinking for this? I remember my family saying this to me. I had been married, I had 2 kids, and if you looked at my life, everything looked perfect on the outside. But I was dying on the inside, and I didn't know why. And I ended up leaving that marriage and moving back in with my mother, who was my biggest enabler. And again, I had these 2 beautiful kids, but I couldn't stop drinking. And, my family tried to do interventions a number of times. And I remember one of my sisters saying, how can you do this to your kids? And, when I gave birth to those children, if you had ever asked me that I would pick alcohol and drugs over my children, I would have told you were crazy. This was not my goal in life, was to become, a daily drinker and, lose everything in my life, because that's exactly what happened. In the end, I was all alone. I had lost my kids. I had lost everything, and you could say I lost it or I gave it away because, but I didn't have the option to choose at that point, and I didn't know when it was talking about that one pounding on the bar. I remember my daughter was making her first Holy Communion, and I swore with all of my fiber of everything. I remember cooking all day long, trying to do anything but not go out and drink. And because somehow I knew that if I had one drink, I wasn't going to be able to stop. But I couldn't figure out why that kept happening. And sure enough, I couldn't keep myself busy. And I picked, I went out. I was only going for one. And I honestly meant that. And, and one led to another and to another. And I walked in at probably 6 or 7, maybe 8 in the morning the next day. And my mother was dressing my daughter for her first Holy Communion. And, here I am, disgusting. I'm hungover, I'm shaking, and I probably smell like my family was humiliated, and so was I, to have to go to church and sit like that. And I remember begging my sisters, because it was a Sunday, at that time, you couldn't buy alcohol on a Sunday, and begging them to just let me go to the bar because I knew I needed a drink. And, that's what alcohol did for me. And if that's not insanity, I don't know what is. And I repeated things like that over and over and over. I missed things that I always meant to do, but I couldn't. I had no control over alcohol. It ran my life. It called every shot in my life. And I thought I was going to die that way. And the sad part was I was okay with it, and by the grace of God, he saw fit for me to come to Alcoholics Anonymous because I had no intentions of getting sober. I wasn't like you people. And, when I didn't get sober the first time, I had to go to detox, I think it was 3 detoxes. And, but somehow I ended up in a halfway house, and I was only going to stay for 30 days and make everybody happy, get out of trouble, and do the same thing. Because I honestly did not know that people could live without drinking and using drugs. It was a foreign concept to me. And somehow when I was at that halfway house, I had a big problem with God. And I always love how it says a God of my understanding. Because if you had told me I had to believe in the God that I grew up with, I wouldn't be sober today. And somehow in that house, it was probably like 25 days, something clicked. And I knew that this problem was more than the alcohol. And that there was something seriously wrong up here. Not that I didn't know that, but it finally clicked. And, then I started to work the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I believe that the only thing that kept me sober in the beginning was my, that stubborn, defiant alcoholic. Because, when you're in open AA, you get those chips, and it was like, God damn it, I'm getting that next one. And, when I stayed sober in spite of myself. And so I always say I believe that if there's breath in somebody, there's hope, because I was hopeless, and so I developed this relationship with God, and throughout my sobriety, it's grown, it's changed. I can be on the beam, I can be off the beam, and one of the reasons I didn't want to speak is because I'm off the beam. And I have to be honest, because you know what? The only one I hurt by doing that is me. I'm the one that pays the consequences. And it's just like my drinking, except it's everyday life. I'm choosing to not do the right thing. Not necessarily not do the right thing, but not do as much. I'm not putting in the effort that I should be. And I know the benefits of when I do that and when I don't do it. And so, I think I like insanity sometimes, because I tend to live there sometimes. And, but, thank God I know there is a solution, and I know what to do. And that's like, if you knew me before and who I am today, Dave and I were talking, and I still have character defects, and I still, I'll never be perfect until I'm 6 feet under the ground. But because of Alcoholics Anonymous and because of this process, I want to jump ahead and jump to 4, but there was something about doing the steps out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous that changed me. I'm very emotional today, and I don't know why. And I hate to cry in front of people. I think I saw the word pride in here somewhere. Before I came here, I read this book, but mostly I read the back and the stories, and the rest of it just sat up on the... I still have a bunch of them all over my house, and I would give them to newcomers, but yet I wasn't reading it, And I just think of the insanity in my sobriety over time, and I always say, why God chose me, I don't know, and why he continues to, I always say, he gives me just enough rope to hang myself. But I'm grateful that today I have Alcoholics Anonymous, and I have, the solution in here, and I have people that if I choose to call, that will help me to stay out of the insanity. But left to my own devices, I would probably choose insanity every time. Not on purpose, but because that's my instinct, those are my old behaviors, it's what I knew. And because of this, I live a completely different way today. I don't treat people the way that I used to treat people. And I don't know. I'm so grateful that I came to Big Book Step Study, and that I did this work. It took me a long time to do it because I never thought, if you had ever asked me that I was a procrastinator, I'd say absolutely not. But I'm a procrastinator when it comes to me and taking care of me. I will take care of everybody else. I will do anything you need. I will help you, I'll help you, but when it comes to Cathy, looking at Cathy and working on me, I don't like it. It makes me very uncomfortable. And I think that's why I'm dragging on, the ninth step is because, I'm not lazy, but I just don't want to. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to own it. I guess I don't know, but so I don't know if any of that made sense, but I am grateful that Alicia asked me and that I didn't say no, because even though I don't like to do this, every time I do this, I feel better. So if you are writing, keep writing. And it does eventually end, and just keep coming. Thanks.